Here we go for Chapter 3 of Hotsy Totsy Feminazi. I'm going to kind of get right to it because this is a long chapter. It's a chapter called Tribalism. I wasn't going to read the center part with the list of criminals, but because it's in the book, it's right to do that, and I had so much fun doing it that I couldn't resist. So here we go, Chapter 3, Tribalism. The question in my mind, why do people allow organized crime, would not be addressed for many years. But eventually, I got my answer. Ignorance and apathy, inclusion, and tribalism. America is the biggest piggy bank in the world, and as such, is the biggest target of organized crime. I don't know and I don't care. Ignorance and apathy are celebrated by a great many people. Crime, it don't make me bad, people, was what one man told me. Later, he was a victim of crime, and you know what? He accepted it. Here was a man with so little backbone that he was willing to be accosted infrequently enough and not severely enough that he could choose to maintain and enjoy his apathy. It may sound unfairly judgmental to condemn people or downright mean to say that people enjoy ignorance and apathy, but they do. If a person enjoys not knowing and not caring, why would you imagine that he should be allowed to elect our leaders? The careless votes are one reason we invite organized crime into our government. If you can't beat them, join them. A large percentage of people invite organized crime because they profit by it. Organized crime is not hiding in the shadows. We have a Congress full of felons. Do you think the following list of men and women compiled by Wiki Answers want a government and population that is tough on crime? Representative Mario Biaggi, Democrat, New York, convicted of obstructing justice, tax evasion, conspiracy, extortion, and accepting bribes. Folks, you elected this guy. Corinne Brown, Democrat, Florida, failed to pay unemployment taxes to the state of California, sued by several airlines for unpaid travel bills, failed to report her Tallahassee travel agency, improperly reported the sale of her Gainesville travel agency, sued by Whirlpool for unpaid bills, pursued by the IRS for over $14,000 in unpaid taxes, investigated by the House Ethics Committee for possible acceptance of bribes, refused to file reports in the House about potential conflicts of interest while overseeing airlines she dealt with through the travel agencies, and charged with laundering money. Representative Albert Bustamante, Democrat, Texas, convicted of racketeering and accepting an illegal gratuity. Tony Calejo, Democrat, California, under investigation for fraud while serving as U.S. Commissioner of Expo 98 in Lisbon, Portugal. He was Al Gore's primary presidential campaign manager until he resigned citing health reasons. Representative Wes Cooley, Republican, Oregon, convicted of falsifying VA loan applications, paid $7,000 in fines plus court costs, and placed on probation. Subsequently tried to gather support to be reelected. Representative Bob Dornan, Republican from California, unusual species, a Republican in California, attempted to leave Grenada with a stolen AK-47, which was confiscated by the Army and destroyed. Representative Walter Fauntleroy, Democrat, D.C., financial disclosure misdemeanor. State Representative Alcee L. Hastings, Democrat from Florida. He was impeached by the House of Representatives by a vote of 426 to 3. Who were those three people? Convicted and removed from office by the Senate by a vote of 69 to 26. The impeachment arose from allegations that Hastings conspired with a friend to accept $150,000 for giving two convicted swindlers a break in sentencing. Hastings was acquitted in a criminal trial, but the friend was convicted. In the House, the case for impeachment was made by John Conyers, senior member of the Congressional Black Caucus. Removed from the bench, Hastings was unapologetic. Good old Senator Jesse Helms, Republican from North Carolina. Helms' campaign sent out 125,000 postcards, primarily to black North Carolina voters, claiming that they might not be able to vote and would be prosecuted for vote fraud if they tried. His campaign, the North Carolina Republican Party, and 4 consulting and marketing firms were charged of violation of the Voting Rights Act. The Helms campaign signed an admission of guilt, but Helms and his staff were never prosecuted. Representative Carol Hubbard, Democrat from Kentucky, misappropriation of funds. Jay Kim, Republican, California, convicted of accepting illegal campaign contributions from foreign sources. Who else does that? Representative Gerald Kleska, Democrat from Wisconsin, convicted of a DUI in 87, arrested for DUI in 90 and 95. Representative Joe Coulter, Democrat, Pennsylvania, fraud and conspiracy. Representative Norman Lint, Republican, New York, tried to have 50 counterfeit Rolex watches mailed to him from Taiwan. Representative Donald E. Buzz Lukens, Republican from Ohio, was convicted of contributing to the delinquency of a minor. Representative Nick Malvroulet, I hope I said that right, Democrat from Massachusetts, pleaded guilty to charges of bribery and tax evasion. Representative Edward Mezvinsky, Democrat from Iowa, indicted in March of indicted in March of 2001 on federal fraud charges, claimed that he developed mental problems after using a malaria drug called Lariam. Clearly, the responsibility lies with the manufacturers, claimed Mezvinsky's lawyers Michael Barrett. Chelsea Clinton married this man's son. Representative James Moran, Democrat, Virginia, charged with spousal abuse and assault and battery, a regular instigator of bar fights while mayor of Alexandria. His position made him immune to arrest. Once he thought about becoming a boxer because I like to hit people. Awesome. Representative Austin J. Murphy, Democrat, Pennsylvania, vote fraud, including forgery, conspiracy, and tampering with federal records. Representative Mary Rose Oker, Democrat, Ohio, charged with 7 federal felonies relating to financial disclosure irregularities. Senator Bob Packwood, there's a name we all know, Republican from Oregon, charged with sexual harassment. Oddly enough, many of the women named as harassees defended Senator Packwood. I don't know what that means. I'm just reading the list. Representative Carl Perkins, not the musician, this is the Democrat from Kentucky, pleaded guilty to filing a false financial disclosure statement, conspiracy to file false statements with the Federal Elections Commission, and bank fraud, sentenced in March of 1995. Representative Mel Reynolds, Democrat, Illinois, in 1995 was convicted of having sex with a minor and obstructing justice. Charlie Rose, not the talk show host, the Democrat from North Carolina, financial disclosure irregularities. Representative Dan Rostenkowski, Democrat from Illinois. You put these people in office, folks, you know their names. He illegally converted official funds to his personal use and mail fraud, accused in 1996 of embezzling $700,000. I wonder how much money that is in today's terms. From the federal government. He was charged with 13 of the original 17 counts against him. Went to prison after serving in Congress. Now back in Washington, working as a lobbyist. And you let him. Representative Larry Smith, Democrat, Florida, convicted of income tax evasion and campaign reporting violations. Representative Pat Swindell, Republican, Georgia, 1988, convicted of perjury. Representative Jim Traficant, Democrat from Ohio, indicted by a Cleveland, Ohio federal grand jury for bribery, tax evasion, racketeering, conspiracy, and obstruction of justice, found guilty of all charges. Guy's a one-man crime wave. Probably had a lot of help, right? A lot of good people in the bureaucracy working with this guy, that he appointed. Representative Walter Tucker, Democrat from California, federal extortion charges, convicted of accepting $30,000 worth of bribes while a congressman, and sentenced to 27 months in the federal penitentiary. Charles Wilson, Democrat, Texas, forced to pay a $90,000 fine to the Federal Election Commission. Tom DeLay, another name we all know and love, Republican from Texas, convicted on 2 counts of money laundering and conspiracy in 2010 and sentenced to 3 years. Bob Ney, Republican, Ohio, pled guilty to conspiracy and making false statements as a result of his receiving trips from Abramoff in exchange for legislative favors. Ney received 30 months in prison. These are high-ranking government officials being heavily fined and going to jail. You people put them in office. Duke Cunningham, Republican from California. They must have got every Republican in California on this list. Pleaded guilty to charges of conspiracy to commit bribery, mail fraud, wire fraud, and tax evasion in what came to be called the Cunningham scandal. Sentenced to over 8 years in prison. I'd like to do a shameless plug here for my book, Murder of a Little Girl. Anyway, back to the list. William J. Jefferson. This is not William Jefferson Clinton. This is William J. Jefferson, Democrat, Louisiana. In August 2005, the FBI seized $90,000 in cash from Jefferson's home freezer. He was reelected anyway, but lost in 2008. He was convicted of 11 counts of bribery and sentenced to 13 years in prison on November 13th, 2009. Reelected anyway. Bill Janklow, Republican, South Dakota, convicted of second-degree manslaughter for running a stop sign and killing a motorcyclist. Resigned from the House and given 100 days in the county jail and 3 years probation for killing somebody, killing a motorcyclist. Hope I never meet that guy on the 405. Vito Fossella, Republican from New York, U.S. Congressman, convicted of drunken driving in 2008, later appealed, but then pled guilty in 2009 to the same charge. Larry Craig, Senator, Republican, Idaho, married senator and critic of Clinton's affair, pled guilty to disorderly conduct in a Minneapolis airport men's room in June after having been arrested on a charge of homosexual lewd conduct. Senator Craig was previously stated that people already know that Bill Clinton is a bad boy, a naughty boy. Right. Mel Reynolds, Democrat, Illinois, convicted of 12 counts of bank fraud. Wes Cooley, Republican, Oregon. Cooley was convicted of having lied on the 1994 voter information pamphlet about his service in the Army. And that is stolen valor. That is really, really bad. That's a very, very reprehensible crime. I don't know what the appropriate punishment is for that, but he was fined and sentenced for 2 years probation. David Durenberger, Senator, Republican, Minnesota, pled guilty to 5 misdemeanor counts of misuse of public funds and was given 1 year probation. Richard Kelly, Republican, Florida, accepted $25,000 and then claimed he was conducting his own investigation into corruption. Served 13 months. Harrison A. Williams, Senator, Democrat, New Jersey, convicted on 9 counts of bribery and conspiracy, sentenced to 3 years in prison. The number of members of Congress who escaped tickets and/or arrests from a variety of driving offenses ranging from speeding to DUI in 1999 due to congressional immunity, 217. Number of members of Congress who were released after being pulled over for drunken driving in 1999 by claiming congressional immunity, 84. Why do we have congressional immunity for this? Why, 1,000 times why are congressmen given... This why stuff's not in the book. It just blows my mind. There are only 535 members of Congress. If the rest of America had the percentage of criminal record per person that the Congress has, life would be total anarchy. This is just a list of the ones who were reported publicly. And, just for fun, let's not forget the antics of Anthony Weiner. Ignorance, apathy, and involvement are easy to grasp. What is a bit tougher is tribalism. Since the dawn of human communication, humans have band together for the safety against many threats, but the greatest of those threats was eventually other groups of humans who had band together. In the days of old, it was very natural to have a leader. That leader would have to have a sanctified position, whether it was possession of a headdress, a special weapon, his pick of women, or some other aggrandizement that set him apart from the rest. Some tribes imitated the animal world and watched prospective leaders fight for the top position. In other words, the grand distinction might just be physical strength. Whatever the case, each leader had to show that he could dominate any other leader. Otherwise, the tribe would drop him and follow the stronger of the two. It was therefore important for the tribe to believe that their leader had invincible power, perhaps even supernatural power. This belief gave the tribe great comfort. To increase the certainty of the tribe's divine status, it was important for the leader, whether military or spiritual, to dehumanize other tribes. We are the favorites of the gods. They are godless monkeys. This belief gave the tribe great unity and comfort. It's good to be the best. If many tribes came within striking distance, some tribes might, while staying pure, confederate with other tribes so as not to be knocked off by lower tribes that confederated out of pathetic desperation to attack our wonderful tribe of the best people and unfairly and unnaturally defeat us. Since the Constitution of the United States outlaws kings, the old-style tribal leader control of the population had to be accomplished by unity of smaller tribes, just as had been done by prehistoric man. After World War I, a group of usurpers of American sovereignty decided to attack our country using this primitive but effective method. For years, the American industrial machine that won the war was led by men like Benjamin Franklin, Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, J.P. Morgan, John D. Rockefeller, Andrew Carnegie, Cornelius Vanderbilt, Howard Hughes, Alexander Graham Bell, Robert Fulton, Eli Whitney, John Moses Browning, Charles Goodyear, Dr. Walter Reed, Orville and Wilbur Wright, Robert Goddard, Albert Einstein, and let's not forget William Harley, Arthur Davidson, and his two brothers, Walter and William. These and others like them are the men who built America. They abolished slavery, gave women the right to vote, and basically created the wealth, power, and security of our country. While they were busy doing all of this, the usurpers were busy too. They were redeveloping tribalism. Small packs of voters have little ability to rise to power, but if you unite enough small tribes, you can defeat any group except a militia. Only governments have militias, hence the Second Amendment. Small tribes are united through fear and/or resentment of the common enemy. The common enemy must have something worth taking. United small tribal leaders must have something to dehumanize. So the choice was simple: nail the producers of wealth. Workers had to be protected from rich white men. Minorities had to be protected from rich white men. Women had to be protected from rich white men. Who would protect these poor, powerless groups against the rich white men who had given them every material thing they had and a constitution allowing them freedom of speech? Why, the socialist government, that's who! What rational producer of wealth would fear the very people who their work benefits? The socialists were free to do their dirty work, while the free Americans were busy providing for their families, their churches, their national security. They understood that it was the American Constitution that protected their God-given rights. They figured that everybody else did as well. They were wrong. They were negligent. They allowed the insurgence of an ideology that was bent on their destruction. Women, Jews, Muslims, the poor, especially those with medical needs, union workers, Asians, American Negroes, Africans, Latinos, homosexuals, illegal aliens, the ignorant and the foolish were all told that they had something to fear. They were told that the common enemy, rich white men who had given them everything they had not only oppressed them, but had oppressed the rest of the world, and they were all evil. In the meantime, these men were out in the world building roads, schools, dams, electrical power plants, providing medicine, farming, shipping, drilling for oil, unlocking the wealth of nations worldwide, providing jobs, and freeing nations from despotic rulers like Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and Hideki Tojo. The capitalism that American lives are based on was finally embraced by the people of Communist Russia and is now being set in motion in Communist China. Both of those superpower countries are finally enjoying prosperity, American style. Their people have things and opportunities that they never had before. Interestingly, or ironically, their prosperity is being fueled by education, as our own country declines academically. America, the greatest country in the world, is being plundered by foreigners who need not fire a shot. Ideologues have weakened America by dividing her people with tribalistic fear. If it wasn't so pathetic, it'd be funny. The policy of our own government is bite the hand that feeds you, and even bite the hand that feeds us. The rest of the world laughs as they rob us blind. Now, that's the end of chapter 3. But now I want to add here in a little piece of epilogue that right now on the news, you're hearing a lot of noise from a guy named Charlie Rangel. He's a Democrat from New York. This guy was convicted of 11 counts, felony counts, of financial irregularities of one kind or another. Okay? This guy is still in office, and he's currently in the Ways and Means Committee, which is the committee that handles finances. So the irony, the ignorance, apathy, stupidity, whatever, of the people in New York to keep this guy and to allow him to have this position is straight up bizarre. As recently as 2 weeks ago, in Chicago, Rahm Emanuel appointed a woman named Barbara Byrd Bennett to the CEO of schools. 2 weeks ago, this woman pleaded guilty to financial irregularities and all this. And when somebody pleads guilty like that, they're usually doing it to cover up for somebody else. In other words, she's taken the hit, and the people around her maybe Rahm Emanuel are getting to run off scot-free. So this kind of crime, it's a daily, weekly occurrence, and we only get the tip of the iceberg. So between all the ones I talked about in the past, the organized crime still continues. The ignorance and apathy still continues. The irresponsibility still continues. And it reaches out and touches all of our lives. I guess I'll let it go. Be back with chapter 4. I'm Fred Satilli. That was chapter 3 of HTFN. Thank you.